to business. Karis Garland joins us here in the studio. The International Monetary Fund has described this war between Israel and Hamas as a dark cloud over the world economy. Karis.
As the IMF's World Economic Outlook already showed a weak global growth that was released earlier this week, but drafted before the conflict broke out. During the joint meeting with the World Bank in Marrakech, the IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said the organization was very closely monitoring the situation, though it was too early to say what economic impact the conflict may have. Let's take a listen.
We have seen some up and down of oil prices. We have seen some reaction on markets. And as I said, we will be closely monitoring this. Very, very clearly, this is a new cloud on not the sunniest horizon for the world economy.
While that IMF and World Bank meeting continues through to Sunday, pressure is mounting on the organizations to make reforms so they can better aid poor nations saddled with debt. NGOs like Human Rights Watch say their austerity-driven solutions are only widening the gap between the rich and the poor in the developing world. Emerald Maxwell reports.
Despite receiving the IMF's biggest ever bailout in 2018 of $57 billion, Argentina's economy has failed to get back on its feet. 40% of Argentinians now live below the poverty line, amid a crisis marked by high inflation and a gaping budget deficit.
We're tired. We wake up in a bad mood. We can't always feed our children the bread and milk they ask for. We don't know where to get the money from.
As the IMF and World Bank hold their annual meeting this year in Morocco, a Human Rights Watch report has documented how the conditions imposed by the IMF with its loans are compounding poverty and inequality in dozens of countries. The Washington-based fund continues to encourage governments to reduce their debt by cutting public spending and raising regressive taxes. From Marrakech, the report's author told France 24 it was time for the lenders to stop pushing austerity policies that hit the poorest hardest.
The conversations that are being had on the official agenda are completely divorced from the reality in which not only the IMF and World Bank are operating in, but they are doubling down on policies that actually helped contribute in some cases to the crises that we're now confronting.
A crisis borne out by the figures. As poverty rates in developing countries have surged, their external debt has more than doubled in a decade to $11.4 trillion.
The US inflation rate rose more than expected in September, raising the prospect the Federal Reserve may increase interest rates. Consumer prices rose by 3.7% compared to the same period last year, the same pace as the previous month. Economists had expected a slight decline, and even if inflation slowed on a month-to-month basis from 0.6% to 0.4%, it was still above estimates. However, President Joe Biden praised the figures, noting inflation was down by 60% from its peak. Well, let's take a look at how the markets fared this Thursday. And on Wall Street, stocks fell amid that inflation data and prospect of more rate hikes. The Dow Jones closing 0.5% lower, and both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq down about 0.2% there. Delta Airlines has posted a $1.1 billion profit for the third quarter, boosted by strong summer travel demand. It's 60% higher than net income for the same period last year, with ticket sales for premium seats and international flights helping the carrier shrug off higher labor costs. A jump in fuel costs, however, is pressuring profits, prompting Delta to trim its full-year outlook. And finally, Microsoft says it will dispute a request by the U.S. tax authority to pay $28.9 billion in back taxes from the years 2004 to 2013. It comes amid scrutiny of major multinationals for reporting lower profits in high tax countries and higher profits in lower tax jurisdictions. Microsoft, though, says it has always complied with IRS rules, adding that since 2004 it has paid over $67 billion in American taxes. Well, that's set to be a very long battle for Microsoft there.
It's an impressive figure, but if it's the correct figure, that's good. If it's not, then there's a problem. Karis, thank you very much indeed. Karis Garland there with All the Business. Great to see you. Let's go truthing or fake.